All right, it is Monday, December 23rd. I'm headed into the office. I got a topic that I'm a little heated about, so I'm going to try to take my own advice, keep it cool as I'm talking through it, because I'd like to do it justice and actually talk through the points and not just be ranting about things. Although ranting feels kind of good, I still want to be able to make a point that is logical. Because we're going to be discussing something that I feel like is highly illogical. And I'll have to come up with a good title for the video, but you probably clicked it because you saw the title. And the whole point of the conversation is that customers do not care about how clean your code is. That's going to be the focus of what we go through. I do have to stop for gas, so I need to remember to edit that part out so you don't get stuck in the car while I'm not even here. But this picked up. This is something I've seen before, but over the weekend there was a LinkedIn post. Obviously, it was on LinkedIn, right? And someone was basically saying like, I can't believe I have to defend this, but like essentially, it's ridiculous to say that customers don't care about clean code because they absolutely do. And then they tried to make some points, and their entire post was about comparing clean code for software development to a clean kitchen in a restaurant. Now, I have so many things that I want to talk about here, and I'm actually amazed. It says it's only like less than 30 minutes to the office today, so I literally might have to split this into 2 videos as I get ranting here. But the first thing that I want to call out, just with the whole framing of this conversation for how it started, is this is what we call a false dichotomy fallacy, okay? The entire argument that was being presented here, everything came back to, well, let's just go back to this restaurant example, right? Like, if we go back to the clean kitchen, you want a clean kitchen, right? You wouldn't go to a restaurant that had a dirty kitchen, would you? So why would people buy software where the code's not clean? And I mean, if you form your entire basis for an argument on something that's completely irrelevant, it's going to be really difficult to have a conversation with you because you've already rationalized this other mental model and it's just not applicable. So it's like arguing with someone that can't even talk about the same thing. Okay, so I wanted to start this entire thing by saying when you have these types of conversations going on, it's just a false dichotomy. It makes it really difficult to have a logical debate when someone's anchored everything they have to say to a false dichotomy. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to kind of talk through here is sort of like this disclaimer. I absolutely take the stance that customers do not care about how clean code is. I absolutely take that stance. What that does not suggest, and I want to be very clear about this from the beginning, because I think people hear that, and if they take the other stance where they're like, no, I think customers do, they automatically think that I'm suggesting that we should not have good coding practices, right? By saying that customers don't care, if I say that, that must mean that I'm suggesting engineers should not have good coding practices. It's not the case at all. What I am saying is that customers don't care about that. Customers want value. They want their problem solved, right? They want to have value delivered to them at a price point that they feel is fair or a good deal, right? They don't want buggy software. They want their problem solved, and they want to pay ideally as little as possible for it. And they want their problem solved fast. These are things that customers want, right? Like, these are things that customers want. Then the argument starts to become, well, you need clean code in order to do that. If you have messy code, it's going to be hard to not have bugs. It's going to be hard to deliver software quickly, right? And that's not necessarily false, but who cares about that? Software engineers care about that. We care about that because we see that as one of the tools that we have control over to try and enable delivering software to customers. Holy crap, it's bright. Customers don't give a shit about clean code. And I want you to do this little example before I pull into the gas station here. Let's do this. Why is someone honking? The light didn't even turn green yet. It's amazing. Oh, they're turning right. Those people. Pick your favorite software. Could be a game, could be a phone app, could be a service you use. Pick your absolute favorite. Okay? Now, what I want you to do is write down or think of a number from 0 to 100 about how clean the code base is for that product that you pay for. You can take all the time that you'd like. Think hard about it. And I want you to write down that number. Your favorite thing that you pay for. Favorite software. Service. Could be a web application, web serve. Maybe it's Spotify. Maybe it's YouTube. Maybe it's some program that you use for work and you love it, like Visual Studio or something. You just love using it. What is your favorite? And then I want you to write down or think about a number from 0 to 100 that scores how clean the code is. And if you haven't noticed, you probably can't do that. Or maybe some of you can. But the reason you probably can't do that is because you don't give a shit. All right, so now that we have gas, I want to do a bit of a different experiment here. So let's pretend that we could have those clean code numbers published from the companies. Somehow they came up with a system to score their clean code. And it's published now. Everyone can see it. By the way, if you can't sense the sarcasm around the clean code part either, and this notion that we can somehow gauge the cleanliness of code in a uniform way, there's a lot of sarcasm, because I think that's the most arbitrary measure ever. But let's assume we could do it. Let's assume there's a system that lets us understand uniformly how clean code is, because that's what customers care about. Now, your favorite company has published their clean code score. It's at 75 out of 100. It's respectable. It's not perfect. It's not 50. It's not failing. It's 75. Okay. Now, company is releasing information about their upcoming update. It's exciting, okay? They have been able to improve the performance for their ability to solve your problem by 20%. Okay, so they can solve your problem 20% faster. Cost is the exact same. You're not paying a cent more, but now they can solve your problem 20% faster. Okay, maybe that means in a video game there's 20% less loading time or 20% more frame rate, or if you're streaming stuff you get 20% more quality, whatever it happens to be, okay? You get 20% more, no extra cost. But they tell you our clean code score has regressed by 20%. They're adamant. They are saying the release cadence they have, it's not changing. It's not changing. But they've measured their clean code. It's now 20% worse. It's regressed. Do you go, oh, shit, I guess I need to switch? It's time we move on. The clean code score has regressed to a point that we cannot accept it. The cost stayed the same, the performance got better, they're still sticking to the release window that they promised. But the clean code. We can't deal with it. It's just unacceptable now. Does it sound a little bit like ridiculous? Now, let's take the same example, okay? And when they're saying their clean code score didn't regress, or sorry, it did regress. Now, their release cadence, let's say, you know what? We're unable to keep up with our software releases every month. To get bug fixes and stuff out to you in a timely manner, we can't do it. We have to change our release cadence. That might be something where you're like, oh, I've been used to this company that's been able to provide updates, new enhancements, bug fixes on a regular basis, and now that's slower. Okay. But they did say 20% boost in quality, performance, whatever it is, and same cost. I think those things are things you might care about as a user, but maybe that's not even enough. Okay, so when we think through these things, I'm trying to get you to think about what does an end user care about, because the reality is end users should not care about how the software is put together. They shouldn't care about what the classes look like. They shouldn't care about what your CI/CD pipeline looks like. They shouldn't care about your unit test coverage, if it's 85% versus 90%. Those are things that we care about as software engineers, because we understand that when we try to improve those things, they should help influence the outcome that the users do care about. So it's not that those things are not important. It's about who they're important for. And that's a huge difference. It's not to, like, as I'm saying this, it's not to suggest, well, Nick is saying we don't care about having well-structured code. I guess we shouldn't test anything. I guess it doesn't matter if our CI/CD pipeline fails 30% more. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying your end users don't care about that. They care about the outcome of those things. Now, to give you an example, say your code is not clean, whatever that means. And let me interject on this, because I thought something that was very ironic when I was having this discussion online was I was saying, I think clean code is an extremely arbitrary measure. And the author of the post was kind of like, yeah, but I mean, like, define it however you would like. It's about having extensible, maintainable code, but you define what that means. So what? So we don't even have a concrete definition of it, but we're trying to claim that customers care about this, but we don't even have it defined. Okay. Interesting take. So let's assume we have a code base and the code is not very clean. Again, whatever that means. But we've been able to ship software in a timely manner that customers are happy with. In terms of defects that escape, like customer reported bugs, those are extremely low. Customers are happy with that. And we're solving what the customer's pain point is. And not only that, we're selling it at a price point that they're happy with. Okay, now let's continue on with this thought experiment. So time's going on. People have said when code is not clean, it will slow you down. And I agree. Based on cleanliness being some amount of maintainable, extensible code, whatever that looks like. When these things have not been factored into a code base, or we're not paying attention to them, not addressing tech debt in some capacity, right? The architecture is not being addressed and we're just kind of going in one path and not reconsidering things. This can slow you down over time, absolutely, as an engineering team. But that's one variable in the entire process, okay? So we have some unclean code. Let's imagine that the areas that we are building in, we start doubling down and we say, you know what, there's so much unclean code here, but as we're building these new features out, we're focused in these other areas. We'll make sure that as they're being landed, we can improve the quality. And you keep up to date with it. So now internally, something that customers do not see at all, you're addressing some clean code. Okay. Now you're sustaining it. So did the customers care about the clean code you started addressing going forward? No. They have no idea. They have literally no idea how clean your code is. They care about getting the value delivered regularly. They don't want bugs. If we go back and we say, okay, we're going to still continue to write slop code, whatever that looks like. But you know what? We hired extra engineers or testers, or we invested more into our testing infrastructure. So we write the slop code, but now we have this awesome test infrastructure that catches defects before they go out. It's great. So that's how we're able to keep up with our velocity of releasing value to customers. Low on escapes still, right? We're still catching the bugs before they go out. Because of how the automation works, we catch them early so developers don't waste too much extra time. And because it's sloppy code, they're writing it faster, but they're able to sort of go back and fix things up. I'm just making this shit up, right? My point is that you just used a different mechanism to address the rate at which you can deliver software. And we didn't touch the code cleanliness this time. Again, I am not saying that you should go write slop code. I'm just saying that in these examples, literally, a customer does not care about this stuff. They care about the end result. How you achieve that, it's up to you. And that's why I like the example at the beginning when I tried to say, go score the clean code of your favorite companies and software that you're using. You can't do it. You're not making purchasing decisions based on how clean code is. You're simply not doing that. There is an exception to this, arguably, maybe more, but I wanted to kind of highlight this, right? If you're purchasing software that's like an SDK, or you're integrating things, you are a developer. And what you're buying is for you to use as a developer, because you're integrating with it. One might argue that you have a lot more exposure to how clean that code base is. So if all of a sudden the API contracts are changing dramatically every release, or the APIs are really difficult to use, that might be a side effect of how clean the code base is from the people releasing the SDK that you're working with, whatever APIs you're using. So I think that could be an exception. But if they did an amazing job, say they do an amazing job and they have a really good API contract and everything that you're not seeing is trash, still works, but you're like, I don't know, why someone would write it that way? Does it matter to you? Do you know what it looks like? Is it performing well? Again, it's not about things being valuable or not. It's about who they're valuable to. And I will keep saying it, customers do not care about how clean your code is. Software engineers care about how clean the code is. And that's because we understand that when we're trying to improve the different aspects of our software development, we can achieve releasing things of higher value. We can do things more efficiently. We can catch defects easier. We can have faster iterations. We understand this as developers. Customers do not need to be concerned with what's happening behind the scenes like that. They don't need to know how clean the code is. In fact, they do not know how clean the code is. I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the restaurant analogy because it drives me nuts. The whole false dichotomy thing. I'm trying to think. Some of the conversation on this LinkedIn post was like, someone responded to me and they said, "Well, when's the last time that you asked a restaurant about how clean their kitchen is?" Like they were trying to prove a point when I said, "Do you know how clean the code is of your favorite software?" They said, "Well, have you asked a restaurant how clean their kitchen is?" I said, No, I haven't." And they're going, "Aha, see? Proves the point. Proves it." Proves what? You're comparing food prep to software delivery. You've created a false dichotomy, and you're trying to say that because I don't ask a restaurant how clean their kitchen is, that's on par with my comment about knowing how clean the code is, which was the whole argument, by the way, was that customers care about that. If you cared, you would ask. And I guess they're trying to say, well, you care how clean a restaurant kitchen is, right? So why haven't you asked? Well, there's some reasons for that. And I think this one might actually shock people because it's maybe hard to accept. If the cleanliness of a kitchen in a restaurant was actually your very first priority, truly, if it was, and I mean this seriously, I want you to think about this. If it truly was your first priority at a restaurant, don't you think the very first thing that you would do is ask a restaurant to see their kitchen or to have proof about how clean their kitchen is? If it truly was your priority, you would say, I need to see the records of your inspection from the health inspector, and I need to see how clean your kitchen is, and I need you to explain how you keep that kitchen clean. And if you do that, I mean, okay, then you've proven that you clearly prioritize that the most, right? As a customer. I just don't think it happens. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't care at all about it. But again, this is a false dichotomy. I actually think a closer representation is not how clean a kitchen is versus how clean code is. I might compare it more closely to how clean a kitchen is to how secure software is, or privacy. Okay, so data leakage. I think that's slightly closer, because the cleanliness of a kitchen, the reason that you would care about that is because your health is at risk. And it's a lot more well-defined to have a clean kitchen. You don't have meat scraps and rotting food out. You don't have rats and cockroaches running around. But when we talk about how clean code is, you could have someone put up code on the internet and say, look how clean this is. You could have half the internet going, this is bullshit code. I can't believe you wrote this. It's a lot more obvious to describe the cleanliness of something in a kitchen. Come on, you gotta move over, pal. That's not how you do it, but... Absolute idiot. They're just not the same thing. So, and it was interesting to watch some of the arguments around this, because the one of the things they were trying to say was like, when the kitchen's not clean, the people preparing the food can't move as quickly, so then your food's going to take longer. I mean, it might not look organized. Are we talking about organized, or are we talking about cleanliness from like a hygiene perspective, or both? Because maybe the kitchen looks disorganized to you, but they can navigate it very easily and effectively. But again, like, we're talking about a kitchen here, not code. False dichotomy. It's a very loud motorcycle. It's very bizarre to me. That looks like something's on fire. Maybe you can see it out the window. Very bizarre. I don't really get the... Like, I think what's happening is that people anchored... I can't talk over that motorcycle. It's crazy. It's not even going fast. That's the crazy part. I have to move in front of this person. I think what's happening is that people are using the word clean, and like it was convenient to anchor to it, and they were trying to say, oh, in these different professions, you know, we can talk about like how much people care about their profession, right? They're talking about mechanics as well, right? You wouldn't go to a mechanic that was losing parts and disorganized and stuff. You know, these people in these different professions, they want to take pride and take care of what they're doing. And yes, they do. Absolutely. And they should, because they understand when they do those things, they can deliver what the customer wants. I might suspect that the more organized a mechanic is, the fewer problems they're going to have. But that is not a direct correlation. It's certainly not one that I can draw. I do know that if I go to a mechanic that's fair price and they fix my problems, they do it at a pace that I'm happy with, I don't give two shits how organized their shop is. Don't lose my stuff. Fix my stuff. Let me get charged a reasonable price and do it in a good amount of time. Hopefully I don't have to see you again sometime soon. And that's the kind of mechanic I want. How they accomplish that, I don't know. And quite frankly, I don't have time to figure that out. But the kitchen thing, I think, again, it's easy to say clean. Clean code, clean kitchen. One of the reasons I do think it's a false dichotomy, especially, is because I try to give you a funny example about not actually checking in about the health code and stuff like that, right? People aren't doing that. However, if it was brought to your attention, you would care. If someone said, hey, look, that restaurant that you really like going to, by the way, every time the health inspector's gone recently, bad news, right? You'd probably stop going. So you probably do care. But I think it's because there's a lot more of a correlation to having truly sanitized kitchen and your ability to be sick from the food that you're ingesting. And I think there's significantly less of a correlation with clean code, whatever that means, and this other thing that is not comparable to getting sick, which is software being delivered on time. If there's bugs in software, you might have experienced this. People don't like bugs in software, obviously, but you know what goes a really long way? If there is a bug in software and software teams can fix it very fast, that actually speaks volumes about software teams. These are not the same thing. This is a false dichotomy to compare these things. I do think it's much closer to security and privacy. Like, I would not want, for example, let's kind of walk through this before I park. If I'm using a cloud service of some sort, if we follow my train of thought from earlier, I don't go necessarily checking on their security and privacy policies. Maybe as an end user, I just want to trust that a big company could do the right thing, right? They're providing me something, the price is right, it's solving a problem, I'm gonna go for it. But if there was something published that said data leak, privacy concerns, if there was such a thing, you bet that would erode my trust with them, right? Very much like you're not going to go check the health code at a restaurant before you eat there, even though you're saying you care about it. You probably don't check. But if someone told you that it was in bad shape, you'd probably say, yeah, I do care about, I do care about these things that are going to put my health at risk. So I think the clean restaurant thing is much more close to security and privacy in software. And that has nothing to do with the rate at which software shipped. That may have no correlation with the number of bugs. You could call like a security gap or a privacy problem a bug, right? But I mean, like, in terms of like functionality bugs versus security and privacy specifically, it's the wrong comparison. So in closing, customers do not care about how clean your code is. And that does not mean that you should go write shitty code.